crazy world.
Yeah, it is. Well, if you want to check, we're live right now.
Okay.
I want to check. Check. Yeah, you should be able to hear you and I.
Howdy, howdy.
Check. You hearing everything all right?
Yeah, pretty good.
Sweet. And then I keep the computer up in case anyone's watching and they want to answer any or ask any questions or anything.
Cool.
People are shy though. I don't know why. Ask away,
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're live
Awesome.
on the Lollipop podcast. Sorry, it always happens really fast. It's like,
No.
oh shit, we're live now.
It's cool, man. You know me. I can talk up, 100 miles a minute at any time. I'm not shy.
Man, you're the opposite of me.
Well, what's funny is I was thinking about how I had interviewed you from my bunker basement in Georgia probably 2 years ago. And at that time, you were sounding real kind of like curious about what you wanted to do and if you wanted to even do music still. And it was really interesting I had a great conversation with you. And,
Yeah.
And now we're here. So, the journey just kind of keeps rolling, right?
Yeah, it does.
So that is cool.
It does.
And, but I remember that. It was a really good conversation. And for those of your listeners who don't know about me, I've had American Pancake, the indie music blog, since 2009.
Yeah, I remember reading it back then.
Yeah, and what's funny is you used to be fucking everywhere. Like, I would run into you
I know.
everywhere. Like, I'd be interviewing Karen the Lesbians out in some weird remote location. All of a sudden, you're over there with a mobile soundboard. I guess you were recording them, or I don't know what you were doing.
I don't know. I was doing a bunch of wacky shit back then.
And then I remember you from Tremors.
Yeah.
I remember all of a sudden you would be like playing drums in all these other bands and your band, that psych band.
Yeah.
That was really, really cool, kind of Doorsy thing.
Yeah.
Why is the name escaping
Mr.
me?
Elevator in the Brain Hotel.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was all cool. And it seems like you were just omnipresent. At one point, I thought, I think there's like 3 white Blairs, like they were triplets, but they're all living as one person.
Yeah,
So to make it easier, one guy could date
funny.
this girl, one guy could do this, and that's what I was entertaining, that thought process. I go, I should write a script about this guy and just make that up because I couldn't figure out everything you were doing.
That's
And
funny.
then-
Yeah. I mean, I'd had nothing else to do.
So
And
you
I
were
was
just
more
doing
carefree
everything.
back then. I just didn't give a fuck. People would be like, you want to play? Yeah, let's play. You want to record our set at this venue? Yeah, fuck yeah, I'll bring my stuff.
Yeah, well, you were everywhere, and then all of a sudden your association with my daughter's band at the time, and recording them early on and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I mean, I played like some of the first shows I ever played, like real shows with Lovely Bad Things.
yeah, and that was the Lovely Bad Things were kind of part of my story because her starting to do music and then me wanting to go see her. That's why the blog kind of started, because I was like, if I'm going to be out here, I want to do something besides just see band. And I started seeing bands, and I found out that the music scene at that time was really, really interesting. Kind of like when I was doing music years earlier.
Yeah.
And so it was like you hear about the proto-punk period in the late 70s, how fertile that music scene was.
Yeah.
That's what was happening to me, like in 2009, don't you think? I mean,
Fuck yeah.
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 And so
It was like a crazy, amount of
explosive.
energy and
Yeah.
bands and people just hanging around and trying to collaborate. And yeah,
It was cool, and I just wanted to catch that buzz, and it made me feel kind of like, how I used to feel when I was playing and stuff, and
Yeah.
and I still do music, but so that was all really, and the whole DIY thing that was so different when I was, our band or my different bands that I was in used to play like in places that are no longer around, like Gazzari's on the Sunset Strip and Starwood. original
Starwood, yeah, I know Starwood's not. Isn't it still there?
No, it's gone. It got
Oh,
busted.
I'm thinking of somewhere else in like the Valley or in Agora. Wasn't there another place in Agora or something that was really hip?
Maybe.
Yeah, Starwood. I've heard about Starwood.
Starwood. They were in the Starwood. The guys doing that were involved in those that murder thing, and I can't think of the name of it. Something murders, and at that time, and he was dealing coke, and the whole club imploded.
Oh, geez.
But it was a weird, fertile time too, because like what we were doing, and we played the original Madame Wong's that's no longer there, and Renaissance Cafe, and all these places that just went by the wayside. But they were all venues. And then when I started getting involved in covering the bands around 2009, it was the DIY thing was so different than then because it was all like warehouse shows and playing in between two buildings outside or whatever, or just playing loft shows or whatever. And I found that really exhilarating, man. I thought that's cool because you didn't have all the less politics that you have with clubs and venues and, you know, this band playing and this band pushing you to a later date, you know, time to get on the stage and all this crap. Seemed more like a community.
Yeah.
And so that was really cool.
Definitely. I feel like, I don't know, because I wasn't around back then, but I can imagine that a lot of those venues and promoters and the actual owners of the venue probably started capitalizing more on the music and kids being young and trying to, you know, fucking party, and it ended up kind of burning out. Yeah. Whenever I think of Hollywood, I think of shitty, you know, music promoters trying to, you know, make money off of bands and kind of sleazeballing their way through. And I feel like people caught that drift.
There was
like,
a
well,
lot
let's just
of
throw
that.
shows in my warehouse. You
Yeah.
know? And that's kind of why it turned that direction. I think. I don't know.
No, you're exactly right. We had, when we first started, my brother was in the band, and there were some times where we were trying to get money that was owed to us playing at a particular venue, and you know, next thing we know, we'd be in headlocks. You know, these big guys like, you know, roughing us up, and you know, it just it was less community minded, and it was more competitive. You know, big thing back then was like Battle of the Bands and all this bullshit.
Yeah.
And so if we were a local band in La Mirada, California, where we were, not very, very exciting compared to LA. But
well, it is LA too.
Yeah.
People that aren't from LA.
I guess. But you know, we would not want to associate with this other band that was, you know, in this particular area. Everybody was like battling, you know, and talking shit about each other.
Of course.
And I'm sure that happens still, but the community, at least around like Lollipop and Burger Records and everything, it just seems so much more like, we'll help you out, you know, this kind of thing. And I'm sure you've met assholes in the industry or
of course,
in bands, but for the most part, I found everybody to be pretty cool and inviting. Even seeing me, you know, in the corner of the room or whatever, and wondering who that guy is, you know. But that was all. In that time, in the late '70s and then throughout the '80s, it was a real weird time too, because you had, you know, hair metal was kind of starting to go out, like Quiet Riot and those kind of bands were playing at the Starwood. And then, you know, while we were playing, I'd go at in the evenings and I'd go see like bands like Oingo Boingo. I don't know if you know who they are.
Of course.
Yeah. X.
Dead Man's Party.
Yeah.
X,
Plim Souls. All these bands that were playing at the Whiskey and in different venues. And it was just, you know, and then the other times we'd be hanging out at Tower Records, which is no longer there in Hollywood, you know.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, exactly. And so I come from that whole time period, and then, you know, fast forward and then seeing this period now with all the DIY movement, especially with indie music. It, like I said, it was exhilarating and just tapping into that, and you know, that was really just Lovely Bad Things doing, because I wanted to see my daughter play and
of course,
and whatnot, and so that was just a fertile time, and that's when I kind of met you and everything, and started meeting other people and other guys, being able to get into festivals and different stuff and get the press passes and just networking, meeting people. So it was cool. And then the blog just kept going, and we've been going for over 10 years, and it's ostensibly me now. It used to be about 3 people, and now it's just me.
Got it.
And I'm still like I just last year I kind of quantified what we did last year through this algorithm method and figured out that, I wrote about 700 artists that a lot of people haven't heard about.
Yeah.
Wrote over 250,000 words.
Wow.
And
Holy shit.
yeah, and so, even though I'm just doing it kind of, part time, I maybe post like 4 times a day. Don't go out to clubs as much because I had left and gone to Georgia,
Yeah.
and I covered some big festivals, Shaky Knees, and different clubs in Atlanta. But I was just so far from it, from the scene,
Yeah.
that I ended up just staying in my bunker in my basement
In your bunker.
and trying to do like,
Yeah. I know what you mean.
interviews and different stuff like that, podcasty stuff. But and trying to get back into music, and actually being part of the scene again got me back into doing my own music too. So that was really cool. So
Yeah.
and I'm still working on that. I should really sit at your knee and just like see how you produce stuff, because I'm like the worst fucking producer. I can't
Music producer?
Oh yeah.
I don't think I'm that good either. I just
Well,
fly by the seat of my pants,
Well,
That sounds good. Let's roll with that.
yeah.
Or that doesn't sound right. Let's not do that.
Well,
Yeah.
it's ultimately so cool a time when you have all that technology at your laptop instead of
Yeah, it's unfair. It's just crazy. Yeah, I need a timpani. Let's go find some timpani samples on Google.
yeah,
Boom, we got a timpani.
do everything in the box. I think for what I've noticed for writing about music, and music always being a important part of my life, is that there's a curse and a blessing with that, man, because everybody can do music now.
Yeah.
So some of the submissions I get are so horrible that you,
Yeah.
you wouldn't
Okay.
believe how horrible it is.
I can imagine.
And so with all the diplomacy I could muster, I try to give them pointers or whatever. And there's a lot of really bad music that's not technically bad, but it's just almost like morally bad. I mean, there's like, I'm telling you, there's like still an element in like heavy metal that is so misogynistic and just so like
Yeah.
evil toward women that you wouldn't even believe it.
Yeah.
There's stuff that
Yeah.
I just like, I can't believe that I get,
Yeah.
and some stuff that I share with friends that they're just like, whoa, you can't do that, well, now
Yeah.
people are doing it. And, but it's a blessing and a curse because it's so easy for people to produce music. Some people can barely be musicians and still put out reasonably sounding material.
Yeah.
And it was different back then, So back then it was harder to get stuff produced, but there was also a different element maybe in musicianship or something.
Yeah, there's more of like a filter. There's music was more filtered
Yeah.
back then, right? Like if you even had a record in a record store, you had to be have some
That's
sort
right.
of clout or be talented or have been doing something to catch someone's eye. Whereas now, you can go to a record store and if you really look, especially if you go to like small independent mom and pop shops, there's thousands of bands you've never heard of that can self-release an album, and
Yep. And that's the
know.
good side of it.
that is a good side
That's
of
the
it.
really good side of it. And you make your money instead of, the big record company making their money.
Yeah.
So that one I applaud. I love that. It's just, I think it's harder for people to ferret out and find what's good and bad. So I think that's why I
Yeah.
think music blogs are kind of good and stuff. But
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's the whole streaming thing too, really threw a wrench in the music industry.
yeah, a big one.
Yeah, I don't think anyone involved was really ready for something that extreme. It's like, yeah, let's just have every song ever for free, practically.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's like, if that happened in any other industry, it would crumble. I mean, you think about the car industry. Let's just give everyone free tires. Fuck it, everyone needs tires that has a car. Let's just have them for free, or for $7 a month. You just get tires whenever you want. I mean, the tire industry there would be no coming back. I would
Exactly
think.
right.
So it's kind of like right now, I feel like everyone's just trying to pick up the pieces and figure out how to somehow strive and get to the next level in their endeavors.
Well,
and
it's
hard.
because people at a certain point people just stop respecting like artists in to a certain degree, where they just go, we can just take their shit. We don't have to like support art. Yeah, they make good art, but that's what's scary for me is there's two things that are scary. One thing is that Like when you look back in the 70s and whatnot, you could afford to be a starving artist because you could live in LA or New York even for probably like $100 a month, not in the best part of town,
Yeah, yeah.
but you could live there even with inflation, accounting for inflation, that's still cheap. You
Yeah.
know, you could live and you could afford to be a starving artist. It's really hard now because
It's impossible.
yeah,
Actually, I think it's
where do you
basically
live
impossible.
and not, you know, and try to be 100% an artist? You just can't. Whether you're a painter, whether you're
Yeah.
trying to make films or whatever, you have to do it as kind of a side thing now because it's just too expensive to live. And so the artist community is shrinking because of that, because people just tap out.
Oh fuck yeah!
You know?
Especially in like a sprawling city like LA, where everything's just being inflated, rents, food, gas. People are either going to be moving out of the city or compromising their art for some sort of, full-time job or a totally different career path.
Exactly.
That's the only two options you have. Either move somewhere that's dirt cheap and in the middle of nowhere, and then you're going to have other set of problems, or supplement your income by working some job that you don't necessarily want to work,
Right.
but
Or
that
two other
allows you to
jobs
do
or
art
whatever.
in a fraction of what you would want to do it. But it's a lot of self-sacrifice.
It
being
is.
an artist.
It's more than ever because of that economic crushing thing, and also, when you were able to get DAWs programs and start doing stuff by yourself, that was really good because you thought, oh, now I can afford to make my art. But then all of a sudden that next hammer fell and people could just steal and stream stuff.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden, and then your
Yeah.
revenue is gone. Like, oh crap, I can't sell anything for anything. So the only way to make money is, tour or sell vinyl or something that's tangible.
Yeah.
And that's why the vinyl thing is huge and important.
Yeah. Definitely.
But that's what is worrisome to me is for people who want to actually make money doing music. It's
It's
tough,
real
man.
hard.
It's
That's
tougher than ever.
That's saying like, I'm gonna spend all my energy trying to win the lottery.
Yes.
Could maybe, it could work
Keep
out, but
scratching
it's kind of
those
like,
tickets.
oh man, it's a big risk. I feel that way a lot with myself. I don't know, like I'm just risking everything.
It is.
Hopefully things work out. Hopefully.
Well, the one good thing about it is that pop music is so fucking shitty right now. And that's actually a good thing because it used to be, when all the music when people talk about the Beatles and their longevity and how
Yeah.
much they influence people for millennium. I mean, they're going to be
Forever.
forever. So because the pop music machine has been like basically force feeding kind of like crappy fast food to people for so long, they kind of believe that like Lady Gaga and Billie Eilish are like experimental or avant-garde or something because they don't know any different.
Yeah.
So now the good music that's being made that is really good, I'm talking good in terms of songwriting and melody and
arrangement,
everything.
production, yeah, the whole.
That's
the
in
whole
the indie
deal.
world now, where it used to be in the pop world.
Yeah,
Now the
that's true.
pop world is like everything sounds fucking the same. It's horrible.
Yeah, no, I know.
And it's the same reason you were talking about the car analogy. Like in the 60s when people were designing cars differently. Every model wanted a different look.
Yeah,
and
they all look the same now.
it started becoming homogenized because it's easier to produce.
Of course.
They force-fed it to people so people didn't give a shit about art. So that's the same thing that happened with music and pop music.
Yeah.
So now the good thing about the indie music is the only place you can find really good music, to me, is independent artists or people that are at least doing something, a little different.
Yeah. Trying to push boundaries and
Exactly.
yeah.
And so right now, American Pancake has been, I've gone away a little bit from just localized, and because when I moved to Georgia, I didn't feel like I was a big part of that scene. So I started really searching, and people are sending me music and artists from all over the world. You know, I just posted about some really cool Japanese bands that are kind of like fusion jazz.
Oh wow.
There's one called Monoslope that you got to check out, man. Their album is
Where are they
crazy. From Tokyo.
Tokyo.
And there's a small label in Tokyo that sent me one of their songs, and then I started delving to the album they just put out. Just crazy. Just you would love it because it's these two girls. Mami Mayaki, I think, is one. I can't remember the other girl's name, and I butcher the. And they just face each other with two pianos, electric pianos, on stage, and then they got these killer ass musicians around them. Killer drummer. Drummer's insane. And they do what's cool about it is they don't just do like jazz stuff. They like Canterbury jazz, which is like a '60s type of rock fused with jazz, and they do that, and then they'll blend in some post-punk stuff, and they'll throw some new wave stuff, and they throw some crazy like avant-garde, Johnny Greenwood guitar stuff, and it just becomes this like potpourri of just bitchin' music.
Yeah. Wow. I gotta check that out.
Yeah, I'll send you a link, but I covered it about 2 weeks ago, and the guy was so grateful that I covered him because he was like, nobody writes about our band,
Yeah, especially being from a different country.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably.
And even today, sorry.
No worries.
Even today, getting on an American blog is real important to people from other countries. So
Yeah.
So the label's Dewfall Records, a small little like cottage label in Tokyo.
That's cool.
But so that divergent music is a really good music now that I think if people discover it is going to be, people aren't going to be singing like, I'm not talking down on Billie Eilish or whatever, but they're not going to be singing her songs like 50 years from now.
Yeah.
Because it's more beat based and it's just a little different.
Yeah.
And I love all kinds of music, but I'm just saying the pop music, the fact that Taylor Swift won like the AMA like decade, artist decade of the year or whatever, just kind of made me kind of throw up in my mouth when I heard that.
Yeah, man, I don't know what to make of it. I feel a similar way that you do.
Yeah.
But it's more of a question of will the independent artists ever get any sort of mainstream publicity or attention? I don't know. That's the sad part to me. I guess some of them do, maybe some of them do, but a lot of them just don't.
No. And even somebody as you, just like Bon Iver, you still wouldn't call him mainstream.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
But I think that's like where he is at level is a comfortable place for any artist I would dream of, right?
Yeah, of course.
Or Florence and the Machine, Flo and the Machine, or whatever. That kind of where you're not like everybody doesn't know about you. Like you go to like Christmas and half the table doesn't know about him, like your aunt and uncle or whatever. Like who the hell is that?
Yeah.
But that's not important as important as like they've attained a certain level. But
oh shit! Let me turn the light on. I didn't even know these were on a fucking.
In the Dark with Wyatt, Romantic Sounds with Wyatt and Rob.
That trips me out. Some of the lights in this place just do that, but some don't. So, I don't know. Sometimes that's never really happened where it just randomly as I'm in the room. But I've noticed there's times I'll turn the light on, I'll go step outside or do something, and I'll come back. Like, why is it pitch black in here?
Right.
But yeah.
But I'm like you. I'm just keeping on, and just I don't know what else to do. I just like have to do the blog.
Yeah, man.
A few times I wanted to throw the towel in, but now I've kind of just setting up a Patreon page and trying to get more into podcasting.
Badass.
As you were doing, because the podcasts I've been doing are just I just play music and talk about the new artists, trying to get more exposure for them.
Yeah.
But I like what you're doing here, where you're able to talk to other people and just kind of face to face. That's cool.
I don't know, man. I think I can't speak for anybody beside myself, but I think it's more than just the music now. Unfortunately, it really should just be about the music. You like this artist, their music's amazing. You support them, you buy their stuff, you see them when they come to your town. But I don't know if it has to do with the film industry or what. But people want to know more than just the music. They want to know like where you grew up, what's your favorite color. I mean, they want to know. I'm the same way. I find that shit super interesting. Watching Paul McCartney interviews about him talking about memories he's had with John Lennon and meeting Elvis Presley and all these things. That's super fucking interesting.
Right.
And I think more people now are associating themselves with the artist on a more personal level than just the music. So that's the sole purpose of this podcast, is like, get to know people that are around where we're around, and people that are doing stuff and supporting art like we are, and artists themselves, and just getting to know them on a deeper level than just, their creations or their content.
Well, it's cool because it's long form. So you're just talking as much as you want. Like it used to be like people would, know artists from just like a little 5-minute interview.
Oh yeah,
That sucks. So now that you're doing
Yeah.
long form, and that's what I want to do, and that's why Joe Rogan's so popular. And
Well, yeah, all the podcasts now really
Yeah.
are just, there's no script or
No.
just, go live, booms,
and that is what's really cool. And now I'm like you. I've been turning more away from episodic television and stuff like that. Which at the end of the day, unless I have some shows I really think are really supremely well written, and I'll get into it, and some series. But if I can just be like, listening to somebody talking, kind of seeing what what they have to bring to the table as far as their journey and through life, and
yeah.
especially creative people, and talking about the creative process. And that's one thing I want to do with the Patreon setup with with American Pancake is also talk about creative process and songwriting in regards to how I attempt to do songwriting. I'm not saying I'm a good songwriter or musician, but I think people find that interesting because they can just tap into something that they relate to.
Yeah, of course. I think that's just where things are headed.
And music, as far as an art form, to me, it's the most, like, I call it being emotionally pliable art form. So like when somebody hears one of your songs, things in your song will trigger either some memory they have, or a sensory feeling, or maybe where they were when they heard it, or that line that reminds me of so-and-so, and somebody else will have a totally different story to lay on top of your song.
Yeah.
And so it is a pliable, emotionally pliable art form. So that's what is really fascinating about music. When I talked to you last time, and I hope I'm not talking out of turn or remembering this differently, but you sounded like you had almost a question in your mind, is like, music's bullshit. I just want to do something more important, for the world and this and that. I remember we had a little bit of that discussion.
Yeah.
And I've had this discussion too, because I've, all the time I spent on the blog, and the time I spent trying to write my music, and then not feeling like anybody's listening to my music, because people basically don't,
Yeah.
a few people maybe. But I think that on the other hand, like, imagine like a world with no music, how like you would have the rates of, music is so cathartic for people.
Oh yeah.
Even
Fuck
music
yeah.
that's pop music or whatever.
Yeah, all types of music.
You would have, you think the emotional condition of the world and people is bad now. If you didn't have music and other art forms, we would be fucking going down a tube like you wouldn't believe.
True. I don't even think a world would exist without it.
I don't think it would either. I think that's why, cavemen started hitting a stick on a rock, and
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
thought, ooh, rhythm,
I know, right? I mean, it just wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
And I did used to think that way. I still find myself. Also, you're talking to me while I was in like a pretty intense, depressive episode.
Okay. I didn't know that at the time. I guess
I was pretty
my
hush
timing-
hush about it, but
my timing was off. Sorry.
that's all good. But I was like going through a lot, mental war, and I do think, from then till now, my viewpoint is, my perspectives have changed a bit. One, because I don't think you as a person can offer anything constructive or any sort of positivity or love in the world if you're not happy. And
You're exactly
kind
right.
of realized that life is selfish. I've always known that, but I've always been really cynical in terms of like, oh, fucking everyone's out to get theirs, and gimme, everything's mine. And that's not necessarily the best avenue of trying to find that sense of purpose or being content, but doing something positive, and like music's not hurting anybody. It's not, You know, I used to think the same thing, like no one's listening to my music, no one gives a shit, and people just say it's throwback music, and maybe I gotta, and I'll start thinking all this, you know, maybe I gotta do this kind of record, maybe I gotta do this kind of thing, but that in turn makes me unhappy, all those things. And I just had to like, you know, squeeze the juices, and I realized like, oh, I just like making music.
Right.
I just like creating things. Like I like cooking, I like making music, I like I'm a tangible person, you know? And if that's something that makes me happy, all that's going to do in return is make the people in my life happier and less anxious and less depressed and feel like, you know, maybe they have more of an influence to do something that they want to do. And so that's been my perspective as of recently.
It's a good one to have. I mean, because also if you're happy and I think people will gravitate towards you more, you know? And so it's not only just within your like microcosm or your family or whatever. So if you're doing something that makes you happy, you know, I'm like you, I don't consider it selfish, and I used to. And I've always been involved, especially through my last employer, who's very community minded. And we used to do a bunch of stuff for food banks. And, you know, I think that's an important, integral part of being happy too.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you know, if everybody was being and I don't even want to call it selfish, but just doing what made them happy, you know, they wouldn't be like also poking into other people's business.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I know, right? I call it prioritizing their happiness. If everyone just prioritized their own personal happiness without having to like attach themselves to anything but just them and their being, yeah, I think things would be a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
You know, that the most unhappy people are the people that will invariably tie themselves to a hate group, you know, or this or that, because they don't feel their cup is like empty. And so, you know, I don't know what you were going through at that time, but we all do. You know, I've gone through a lot of stuff, especially somebody who's a lot older than you. And, you know, that is something that, you know, is important, you know, to be happy yourself. And especially with artists, like a lot of artists are making art because they need to feel love. Like they want the adulation of
connection
of their music, you know, of people coming to see them and everything. And that could be a really horrible way to be.
Yeah.
Because I was like that when we were doing the band thing when I was a lot younger. And instead of finding the joy in the community of the band and making music, I was fucking like, you know, a little mini Hitler. You know, like you weren't at band practice at this time. You weren't, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
The drummer, what are you doing? You know,
Yeah.
And so I made everything like toxic. And then one day after, like right when we started ascending and doing a lot better and playing the Starwood in places that, you know, people wanted to play and everything, I just friggin' like, you know, even though the guy told me don't do any of this bullshit about pulling people on stage and all. Back then they were really, it wasn't like, you know, at the observatory or something where, you know, you can pull people on stage and they can dance. So I purposely did that and stuff and did all this bullshit. And then I, in the alleyway afterwards, I said, I'm fucking quitting the band, you know, and it was my band. So what I was saying was the band was over.
What was the name of your band?
At that time it was 210 IQ, which is a stupid ass name.
210 IQ. What the fuck does that mean?
I think
210 IQ.
I think my brother came up with it in a former, not a former band, but a different lineup in the band, and then he left, which was probably not a good thing because, you know, but we had something, and he left, and then kept the name, and it's a stupid ass name, you know.
It's catchy though.
Yeah,
like I'll remember if you ask me that next week. I'll be like, yeah, 210 IQ. I remember that.
Well, what was stupid about it was people who would get in our face or something. You know, if you're you know, you get a heckler or something or whatever, they invariably say, "Oh yeah, that's the total IQ of your band, 210 IQ." You know, because there's like 4 guys in the band. So.
Got it.
So that was why it was bad. But anyways, and then I just fucking and I had like Wyatt, I had like a killer drum kit, 2 drum kits, because that was my first instrument.
Got it.
with drum risers, because back then you always had to carry your own drum riser.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was crazy.
What the fuck?
Oh yeah, we had this.
How do you even does that shit? I mean, it was like a collapsible one.
Yes,
You had to, like,
we
get
had
it
a
in the
beautiful
car.
design. There was a band called Eulogy that was big at the time, and we watched them break their drum riser down, and we stole their their little design. And it was really cool because it was just like 4 sides that had regular door hinges in it. So
Okay.
you pull the
Oh, I
pins
see.
out,
I see. I see.
collapse it that way, and then 2 sides, and it was a pretty cool little thing. You throw it in the back of the van or whatever. But I had like tons of guitars, all this gear, and I was so depressed and just had it and feeling like this is taking too long. We're never going to go anywhere. We're not getting enough response from the audience, even though we did have somewhat of a little following and some groupies and stuff that would go to each show, and because I wasn't just enjoying the process, but I had to put all this other like rules, like we got to have this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's why I got depressed, just blew everything apart, and I sold all my gear.
Wow.
And I didn't pick
Holy
up
shit.
I didn't pick up an instrument for like 15 years after that.
Holy
Seriously.
shit.
And so I really, when I go big, I go big. Like when
Yeah.
I'm going to fuck my life up, I'm going to go big,
Yeah, man. I'm the same way. I can relate to that.
And so, and that's what I told Lauren when she was, she decided to,
Start playing in the band.
do the band thing. I said, and she was, she kind of used to hear me play guitar all the time in the house and stuff. And she says, that I basically got into music because of you, and this and that. And that's sweet to say. But I told her, man, don't let it stress you out to the point where you just want to, because to me,
Yeah.
that was the worst decision I ever made. I wish I would have kept doing music from that.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I would have stuck it out, but, and I said, don't, do it because it's fun. If it's fun, like you're saying, and you're happy, people get that vibe. But everybody's been around a band, like after you like this band a lot, and you kind of wait around to kind of say hi, or man, you guys sounded good, when you're at a venue, and like sometimes they're like total assholes.
Okay, gotta go. Sorry. Gotta
Yeah.
get to the
Those
next,
are the
gotta get
peop-
to the next gig.
Yeah, those are the people that kind of hate each other, hate themselves, and like.
Yeah.
But the other, and the Lovely Bad Things had a good, nice following, tight following, because
Yeah.
they were cool to their fans, but and for them even it eventually imploded.
Yeah.
So, but
Seems to be the case for most bands.
well,
From my experience, there's some sort of implosion that happens, like a ticking time bomb.
yeah,
and something
I won't
happens.
talk out of turn because it's for them to talk about, not me. But all I can say is that any band you're in is kind of like a marriage,
Yeah.
and there's things you don't do in your marriage that obviously will just break your marriage apart.
Of course.
And there's also egos clashing and a lot of things, and
Personal agendas clashing, and
yeah, marriages just go south, and I think and I've known a lot of bands that go south because of just a lot of things, like, hey man, you're singing too many leads on the songs, and you're doing this too many, and you're writing,
yeah.
and,
Yeah, the whole stylistic thing too. People want to, merge their sound in a different direction than someone else in the band. And
Yeah.
disagreements and
and a lot of stuff, and I don't know if you've had any of that you could relate to directly, but
yeah, absolutely. I mean, my best friend's probably the closest friend I've ever had to this day. The Mr. Elevator thing imploded pretty bad.
okay.
So I can relate. Yeah, it was.
And,
Not fun.
from the outside, and I know I've only seen you guys play like 4 times, and I only know you, but from the outside, I would have thought you guys were like this,
Oh, we were.
Yeah.
we were. That's the hard part. Is that
Oh.
we were for a long time, for years. Yeah, I mean, he was the closest thing I've ever had to a brother, and we wrote a bunch of songs together and traveled together and lived in
Right.
vans together and did the whole thing. But it's a similar thing. I think he wanted things to go a different direction for the band than I wanted to. I was more involved with Lollipop. He was more wanting to tour and do the band thing, and I was more wanting to put albums out and record albums. I was more into like the actual making of album side of things. I was not into touring.
I know you love to do that.
I do. That's like one
Yeah.
of my favorite things. And touring, I've never liked that. He just wanted to keep touring, and I toured for years. I just got so burnt.
And not only that, because you're producing other bands and everything, you kind of can't be like that. You have to kind of be available to other people too. and
Yeah, I mean,
stuff.
it would do a disservice to the whole thing I was trying to do with Lollipop.
Yeah.
And you know, none of that would have happened if I kept touring. Maybe on a way slower level, but so there's a disconnect there, and things happened, and you know, things imploded.
Are you
ended up
amicable
imploding.
now, or
No,
no? So
No.
it was bad.
I am.
Yeah.
You know, I am. I want to, you know, but it's not reciprocated. So
Well, things
you know.
take time to heal and all that, but I'm one of those people too that I don't care if like bands end, because all the best music made by the best bands that I like are bands that ended.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Beatles, a prime example. They were not together for very long.
yeah. What was it, 6 years? Or
Yeah,
something like that.
4 to 6 years, something like
Yeah.
that. Most people say 4 if you really include when they really were together, because a lot of times they were kind of producing
Yeah,
at different
yeah.
times, not even in the studio at the same time, all this
Yeah,
stuff. And look at what they achieved. So
yeah. It's kind of
it's not always good to be like together for 10 years or whatever. You know,
yeah.
just be there. You know, in the prime. Pixies, you know, of course they're together now, but the core thing before they got back together, whatever, was short lived. And Pavement was. I mean, all the bands that I really kind of shaped me. And Bowie, you can't really include because he had so many different manifestations of Bowie. You know, different bands. So he's more a single artist.
Yeah,
but,
true.
But
Yeah, it's weird, and I mean, it's still you know, he's changed the name to just Mr. Elevator, not And the Brain Hotel, and he's still doing it.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So and you know, it's great stuff. Good for him. I just wish, I don't know, you know, I'm like, wish things were okay. I don't even really care. You know, looking back now, 'cause everything kind of took a crash like 3-4 years ago. It was really not that big of a deal of what happened. I mean, it could have been as simple as like, hey man, like, why don't you just keep doing the band without me? You know, I'll still support. I still, you know, be there. Yeah, I don't have to, you know, if you want to tour, don't let me bring you down. Like, just go for it. You know, I'll be around when you want to like make albums, or even if you don't want to make albums with me anymore, that's fine. We can just,
Right.
you know, we could just sat and talked about it, but whatever.
It got toxic really bad.
Yeah, there's. I don't want to get too into it, but there's
No.
other things that were happening at the same time.
I'm not trying to do
But
a
yeah.
Barbara Walters on you or something.
That's all
make,
good.
Make
But
you cry.
I relate to the whole love of bad things too, and a lot of bands. I mean,
Yeah, and again,
so many
that's-
bands I know.
that's-
That's what happens. So.
That's not my place to talk about. I'm probably in deep shit already for even mentioning it. But I just think that, I guess my point in just finishing this part of the talk up is that bands that break up, to me, they should just look at like, man, we did something for
reflect
this
on
long.
the positive. Like,
Exactly, because most bands, their core, like what they do, and you guys did some awesome, incredible stuff. You know, focus on that, because chances are, if you would have meandered just like a marriage that stays together too long, it wouldn't have produced good material. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
I agree.
so I just think, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't, and I'm funny that way too with even people who I know who have gotten divorced in a marriage. I always say, well, that doesn't mean your marriage was not successful. It just means that it didn't last as long as some other people's marriages. Why do people have to assume like, bam, okay, I get, you know, and some
I get
people,
divorced. It was all for shit.
yeah,
Yeah. No, it's not the case.
it's not. And so, and I hope that all the members of the I won't even say their name at this point, but I hope they, if they want to get into music, they'll do separate things. I think they're all talented. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's life, man.
it is
Bands.
life. It is.
Crazy. I see so many, you know, so many stories from just talking to people and just being involved with other bands that's it's just really relevant, really prevalent. Sorry.
No, no, and you're exactly right. And I also think that in a way, I'm jealous of like artists as opposed to bands who just have the opportunity to go like, hey, you want to do a project with me, and then some band members or these people do a project, they do a project, and they do another project. That's something that when I decided to move back here too, I said I'm going to reach out to some people and kind of work some of that out too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is the place to do it. I mean,
I may be calling you.
it's I don't know, maybe Georgia, Atlanta has kind of how far away were you from Atlanta?
45 minutes.
Oh, see, we're not that far at all.
Nah.
There's a lot of good shit happening in Atlanta, but I don't know. Like you said, you didn't feel as connected to it. Maybe you weren't there for long enough. You think that's what it was?
I think it was that, and that, I was working long hours at the company I worked for. And so that left me like little time to like, go to a bunch of shows.
Yeah.
I actually, I did something crazy. There was a local radio station that was wanted songs like, and this is so stupid because I was talking about how stupid these Battle of the Bands are, but it was like this competition thing.
Okay.
And the only reason I entered a song into it, and it was for original music, was because you could, if you made it far enough, you could play. And you know what? My mind is just totally drawing a blank at the name of the festival. It's a huge festival in Tennessee.
Okay.
I don't know why I can't think of it. Bonnaroo.
Okay. Yeah.
So
that's huge.
It is.
Yeah.
So I and there they have a tent, and it was supposed to be this big thing, and so I went. I sent this. I'm gonna send a song, and went down the basement, recorded it live, just me on acoustic guitar, and the guy calls. I get a call like 2 weeks later. Hey man, this is an awesome song. You want to, we need you to come to this venue and perform it with 3 other bands, and blah blah. I'm like, fuck. I was like, I wasn't like prepared for that.
Yeah.
I hadn't played like in front of anybody in like probably like 2 decades or something,
That could be nerve wracking.
I was like, do I really want to do this,
Yeah.
And so I thought, what the fuck, I'll just do it. I only had the one acoustic, and it wasn't, you couldn't do backing tracks or anything. So I go, what the hell, I'll just drive down there. And it was a really cool club in Athens. And then all of a sudden they call me back. Okay, you got to have like a half-hour set. I'm going,
Shit.
A half-hour set? And they go, well, 20 minutes to half hour.
Okay.
And I'm like, and so I'd actually started writing because I put out 2 albums on Bandcamp, and I had some material, but the like right now I'm doing more. I don't even know what you'd call it. Some people are saying it's kind of Bowie-esque music.
I kind of always thought your stuff was Bowie-esque.
Yeah, that's what some people say. but
you brought up Bowie earlier. I was like, yeah, you kind of have, like, your music kind of had, sounds similar. I don't know.
Well,
I can tell your influence. I don't know if you like
Yeah.
David Bowie, but
I love David Bowie, but and T-Rex. I mean, I could go down the line, but that glam thing was really important to me.
yeah.
But the music I was writing at the time, I actually reached out to my old bandmate, Matt Donaldson. He's like an excellent guitarist, and he played bass in the band, but he really wanted to be the guitar player. He wanted to be like Randy Rhoads, or something. I mean, he was like, and he was really into a lot of progressive rock music, Bowie and Bebop Deluxe, Bill Nelson, and all different kinds of. So I reached out to him, and so the music I was writing was kind of psych rockish, glammy stuff.
Okay.
With a bunch of like electric guitar in it, trippy stuff.
Sounds cool.
And so it ended up that I put in that album out, but this was before that, but I was writing. That's what the music I was writing. So I'm like, how am I going to do like 20 minutes of that on acoustic guitar?
Yeah.
So I actually did, about 20 minutes, and it scared the shit out of me, man.
Really? Did you enjoy yourself at all? Or was it more just like biting your teeth the whole time.
When I went up to this for the sound check, and I just brought an amp and a guitar and a chord. I liked the sound on the sound check, so then I got kind of stoked because I forgot how cool it is to sing into a microphone.
Yeah. Like in a room with
Yes.
a PA system. Yeah, there's something cool about that for
It's
sure.
so cool, because it gives your voice a certain context and feeling that you don't get when you're just singing into a mic and you're recording it.
Yeah. No, it's like it's real.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, this is, I'm here. The room's dedicated for me, like singing in this, and it's fucking people around and shit.
And so that was really fun, and my youngest daughter was there, and my wife came to see it, and I didn't tell anybody at work. I thought I'd get nervous if I knew people or whatever. So that was cool. Then we left. They had an early sound check, and then you had to come back. So I left to grab a bite, and then when I came back, the sound didn't sound the same, and I felt like I started almost having these kind of flashbacks to the way when I wanted to, when I was going, everything was toxic, and I was young, and I was playing, and at that time I was, the the guitarist and lead singer, and it was a whole different thing. But I had a little bit of almost like a trigger.
PTSD.
I don't want to call it that because it almost.
No, I mean that's a form of it. That's
yeah,
a form
but
of
it almost
PTSD,
sounds kind of
definitely.
demeaning to for people who really have it, because I don't think that's what it was. But
Triggered is a good way, maybe.
yeah. And I felt a little, but I got through the whole thing because there was one point where I started forgetting the words of something. So I said, "Well, fuck, they're not going to know it's the original song,
Yeah.
So I just winged it, and I'm actually very good at improv. I do the kind of David Bowie Dadaistic improv type of writing,
cool.
stream of consciousness writing.
That's cool.
And so I got through it. Didn't advance to the next level. Got knocked out the first go round, but it was an interesting experience.
Would you do it again?
I definitely would do it again, especially
You
now.
would?
Yeah, now I feel better, and I like my music better. This was like a few years ago when I was just kind of starting to get back into songwriting.
Yeah.
And but what I would do is I would get some backup. I'd have a drummer, I'd have a bassist or whatever, and then I would feel good about it.
Dude, it's so much better playing with other people on stage.
Oh,
fuck, it's so much
definitely.
better. I mean, it's just just being alone on a stage and singing is fucking tough.
Especially, I was like,
rough.
I was the only solo singer. It was all these fantastic bands,
You were the only solo act.
Yep.
Oh, that would fuck me up.
So that was,
Yeah.
and
Oh, shit.
and there was one. I got some good feedback, and I don't know if people were just being nice. And then when I was putting my guitar away, this I don't know, 20-something woman walked up and she's, "Hey, I really liked your music," and so that kind of felt good, And then at that point, I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool,"
Yeah.
And so that kind of touched me in a way that and that she didn't judge me because I was older or this or that, And I've always kind of felt younger, and people usually don't judge me on anything like that. But that's always a fear when you get older and you're doing any kind of art form.
Yeah, I think I could see that. But I also think from the other end of it, I don't think it matters at all.
Yeah.
Not even in the slightest. But
well, definitely I will reach out if I'll in the least I'll send you the stuff that I'm going to put out on the EP.
yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I got this song. Speaking of Bowie, I got this song called Atari that I'm really excited about.
Cool. Is it about the video game?
No,
No.
the name doesn't have anything to do with the song. And the music is the lyrics are very kind of out there. But there's a particular period of Station to Station, that album.
Yeah.
If you ever want to tap into some old Bowie stuff.
Yeah, that's good shit.
Right now, I'm writing an article for the blog that is specifically about, if you go to YouTube and you type in the Beat Club 1978 Bowie performance, and you can wait till I post it because I'm going to link to that performance. But he played in this club, and they televised it, and then he put an album out over about it, and it's just so badass, man.
Huh.
It is just, it's in 1978.
But can you? Is it like not a public album or what?
No, it's a public album. You
I
can
don't-
get, the album came out, and they put a bunch of, because he was playing in a lot of German clubs, so they put a lot of live performances all on one album.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I forget the name of the album, but the video, you can find videos out because that Beat Club was televised, but it's just a different time. You know, it's like what I was thinking about when I was watching it, and it's only like 40 minutes long. It's before like guitar tuners. You know,
I see what you're saying.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that's how old it is. Like
Got it.
when
It's
you
a whole
think
different.
yeah,
fucking
it's like
world.
it's a whole different world. You know, like everything's played live. You know, no programming, but the thing that struck me was about guitar tuners because I was thinking like, you know, there's freaking people now that are maybe good guitarists, but their ear's really bad because they've always used a guitar tuner, so
Yeah.
they never had to tune by ear.
It's true.
And it's always bothered me. You know,
Yeah.
it's like tune your fucking guitar, like develop that ear. You know.
Yeah.
And I'm probably being ridiculous about it, but anyways,
No,
but
I know exactly what you're saying.
yeah.
It's the same with, you know, a lot of people are recording using a bunch of samples, which I think is fine. And I do that too sometimes, but it's like, man, you know, learn to record a drum set. Like,
Yeah.
Or like an instrument without using MIDI, you know?
Exactly. And without everything being quantized.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
I don't think you
Right.
have to have everything perfectly on beat to
Yeah.
feel the groove. You know, sometimes you listen to older albums and like they're in the pocket and everything, but
Yeah, it's slightly off. And that's what
Yeah.
makes it feel
they're
so
a little
good.
bit ahead of the beat. They're right on top. It's quantized music. I don't, and you might even do quantizing because when you're cutting and pasting, yeah, you have to sometimes do that. It makes the most sense. But I still long for the time when you record bands and they're all like facing each other and it's just you're recording it. And
Yeah.
try to get the isolations as much as you can. But
Yeah,
you
that's where the best shit happens.
it is the best.
It is. You can't. There's no faking that. It's just real. It's either like happening or it's not happening.
Yeah.
You know.
And on this particular YouTube video, Adrian Ballou is the guitarist. Man, that guy is fucking awesome. And he played with Bowie a lot. Plus, you know, Robert Fripp and Mick
I
Ronson.
gotta check that out.
Yeah. Bowie is an artist too who, when he's playing with really good musicians and he's just watching them, he's got this like inner glow, like this smile on his face. Like he really
He's just
appreciates,
excited. Yeah.
like he always surrounded himself with really good musicians. He's smart that way. And that's why a lot of that old stuff is just so good.
Yeah, I haven't listened to Bowie in a quick minute. Huge fan though.
Well, I decided, just for inspiration for some of the writing I'm doing, I go, yeah, I'm just going to tap into some of the old stuff. Not that I don't have any disdain for like new stuff or, you know, whatever, Tame Impala or whoever you want a new artist now. But I think some of their decisions on where they go with chord changes and stuff is real interesting, you know.
Yeah.
I listen to Tom York a lot. I like Radiohead, and just when you listen to some of his decisions on where he moves with his chord changes or augmenting something, or it harkens back to a lot of that old music. So I said, fuck it, I'm just gonna listen to some of the old music, listen to old T-Rex records.
Yeah.
Just cool
It's great stuff, man. That's great stuff.
So let me ask you a few questions
Sure.
that I've always been curious about, because obviously I've seen you drum in a bunch of bands, so I know you're a drummer. I've videotaped you when you were doing your Banana Dream stuff.
Oh yeah.
And in fact, one of the videos I have up on the YouTube channel is of you playing a telephone operator.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so I know you're a guitarist. If you're a guitarist, you're probably a bass player, because most people are. If you're
True.
somewhat, you can play bass.
Yeah.
I mean,
They go hand in hand.
I don't know. Do you dabble in keys at all? Or?
Yeah, recently, yeah, I dabble in keys. I can't. I'm not like a shredder. I can't. You know, it's not like you can throw a book of piano music and I'll just ace it. But you know, give me some chords and I can.
So do you
do it.
compose at all on the piano or just on guitar?
The stuff that I'm about to come out with has been all stuff that I've been doing on keys specifically. just because I'm trying to push myself, but it's more recent thing. Yeah.
That's cool.
I wish I learned keyboard, like piano first. I feel like people that have a grip on piano and just the layout have a really good grip on everything. So, but I'm learning.
I took piano lessons and I failed miserably, so
Really?
I just stuck with the guitar. But my first instrument was drums, and I came from a time, Robert. Why am I saying Robert? Neil Peart.
Oh
Peart,
yeah,
Peart.
rest in peace.
Yeah, he just passed away, and I come from a period of him and Ginger Baker and all these like classic.
They were the dudes.
Yeah, and so when I was playing drums, I had this huge, humongous double kick Rogers wood grain.
Yeah.
That's
Did
what
you
I
have, like,
learned.
all the toms.
Yeah,
and shit?
all the silly, stupid little ones.
Splash cymbals.
And then I had the wind chimes and all this stupid stuff. And now I hate that. I like a little integrated 4 or 5 piece set.
Yeah.
And I think that's all you really need. And I'm always impressed with guys who play a small set but get a big sound out of it. You know, and that's one thing that I sold is I sold that set and I sold my Ludwig set. And I haven't played drums in a long time, but that's one thing I want to. Once I get a place, I got to get a kit again, man. So I might be asking you, like, hey, what kind of kit should I get?
Dude, it's so therapeutic. Just a bash on drums for like a half an hour.
And I've sat at people's kits before, and I've lost a lot, but it's something you can. It's like riding a bike in a way.
Yeah, you
know?
got it.
And so
hand foot coordination.
Yeah.
Once you get it, you get it.
And that came easy for me when I was learning to play drums. And that's the main thing that a good drummer has is that separating your kick drum from everything else in your head. So, so but I'm not. You know a lot bit more than I because I just play guitar and I'm a horrible lead player. And
Same here.
yeah, I'll play leads on the records I did the 2 Bandcamp things. I did play some of the leads, but I wouldn't dare do it live. I just like get somebody to do it.
I feel you. I'm the same way.
Yeah,
I don't.
Because there was a lot of like, fuck, and then
redo. You can't do that shit live.
No.
I wish you could. Have a little time machine and go back.
Yeah.
Let's try this solo.
And as much as I hate to admit this, like, and I'll send you the link, but there's a song called Bear, a Bare, a 7-minute like psych rock song that my buddy Matt Donaldson, like I said, wonderful lead player. And so what he did was he played like crazy ass leads on it. And then what I did, and it kind of killed him a little bit, I just cut and pasted what I liked.
Yeah.
Which I was just saying I didn't like people that did it, but I did that because I was like I was controlling my own domain, like.
Of course.
And he knew it. Like I wasn't like, I was saying like, well, because we're 2,200 miles away, he was in California, I was in Georgia. I
Just
go
do a shitload of
yeah,
takes.
I go do like, and then, but I liked some elements. I didn't like other elements. And so, and he's like, what the hell? He goes, I didn't play that. And I go, that sounds good, doesn't it? And so.
Dude, that's supposedly how, Van Halen did that shit.
Oh, yeah?
Right? Yeah. Supposedly they cut up his guitar solos and made them into like these crazy masterpieces.
Well, a lot of the really good Talking Heads albums, when he was doing a lot of Afro beats and all that kind of stuff.
Well, is that like chopped up?
Oh, it was totally chopped up. So what the producer would do, and I think it was Brian Eno, he would have them play, and then he would just take one little section. He would make the whole song, then he would send it to David Byrne, and David Byrne would think up lyrics to it. And so that's a different way to do it.
Yeah, it is. That's
I don't know if you've ever explored that, but I think that's kind of interesting.
That's a very forward, artistic thinking. I mean, back then, I feel like that was not as common as it is now.
No.
Right? Like now, I've worked with people like where I'll send them a song. I have a friend in New York that's been singing on some stuff, and I'll send her like just a song. She'll sing the whole thing. She'll send me back all the different takes, all the different harmonies, and then you can just kind of pick the stuff you like you said, and just make this, vocal take out of it. Then I could send the same thing to someone in China, and they can do a freaking saxophone solo. I mean, it's really insane what you can do now. You can just find loops. There are a lot of songs I do where it's just a drum loop that I just copy and paste for 2 minutes and make a whole song from that. And it's crazy.
Well, that's the one thing that I don't. What I hate to do it, even though some people are impeccable at being able to do it. But I'm not a fan of like drum loops and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a drummer, so I did buy a program and create all the drum loops, and it was easy for me being a drummer. Like it was easy for me to kind of like
Yeah.
after I got used to it.
Of
I go,
course,
this
yeah.
is kind of easy, you know, because I know what I want. But
Exactly.
Both the records, and especially the one that was more psych rock, it's all fake or not fake. It's real drummers, but it's just cut and pasted stuff.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I wish I didn't do. That I wish I could have found a drummer on 2 songs. I did actually use a drummer in L.A. I would just send him the tracks.
Yeah.
And but other than that, I envy you because you know you're able to use a real drum kit.
Not all the time.
Not all the time.
I mean, yeah, I can, but there's times I don't. Like I'm trying to think of a lot of there's one album I did where it was just like a little like desktop. I don't even know what you call it. You know, it's like desktop pads. They're like a square, and there's
Right.
like 6. I think it was 6 pads.
Right.
There's some songs that I just used that with. I would just with the snare, and that was it. You know, I didn't use any real drums on some stuff, but
Oh,
on some
smashing.
stuff I do. I don't know. It's fun to experiment. If you have, I'm lucky enough where I can have a drum set and do that. So
I think because I play drums, that would be the ultimate thing. Is if I could get just a kit and a bass, and then I could do the guitar, and then I can farm out other things or get. But I'm totally now being back in the LA area. I totally want to do some gigs, even if it's just some stupid ass place, you know, just to kind of feel that. You know, it's always good to do something that scares the shit out of you.
yeah, push your comfort zone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's always good. So I'd love to do that, and I even would love to do it with, if I could find like a small string section, that would be like
Crazy.
Always want to do that too.
I mean, this is probably one of the only places in the country. I mean, there's a few others that you can probably do something like that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Find
maybe
the
New
people.
York, Nashville. Yeah, I don't know. There's only a few little epicenters of really like a shit ton of music, and you're in one of them. So
Yeah, definitely, and that's good. And you know we've only been here for a month, so we're still kind of
yeah,
finding our way and figuring out what the hell am I going to do.
yeah. I feel you. Where are you at now?
I am
Like, are you in LA or are you in La Mirada or
La Habra,
La Habra?
Yeah.
Okay.
which you're familiar with,
Yeah.
right next to Fullerton.
Yep. Yep.
In fact, I just covered. Well, there's two people that are kind of like. Have you heard of the Tissues, a punk band out in
Yeah,
LA?
I have heard of the Tissues. I'm not. I can't hear a song in my head when you say it, but I've heard the name the Tissues.
Yeah, they're real cool and really kind of. They reminded me of X a little bit.
Nice.
I just wrote about them, and I wanted to kind of get in touch with them and maybe do an interview. And then there was somebody who was actually. Oh wait, it was them. They recorded their album in Fullerton
Oh, cool.
at a place called Hubba Baloo Records, which
Huh.
I've never heard of, and I know Fullerton well.
Oh yeah. That's yeah. I
So
know
there
you're
is
talking
an
about.
actual.
Yeah, there's
Okay, because you know some bands just make up a name and it's really
no,
recorded.
no, it's recent, but it's the guy. I'm forgetting his name. He had a studio in Costa Mesa. And he recorded a lot of like the early Growler stuff and a bunch of stuff. And I guess he was like liquidating a studio, and some guys. I'm trying to think of. I'm not sure what bands they were in, but they were in bands in Fullerton. They kind of got the gear and have a space for it. And yeah, I really want to go down there and check it out. Actually,
Oh, cool.
it's pretty. It's like a new, as of the last year, I think they've been doing that.
Because I thought about doing a podcast from there just to meet those guys.
Yeah.
And then maybe if I can get the either the lead singer Christine Nevros from the Tissues, or it's three girls and a guy, but she's kind of the center, being the lead singer and whatever.
Yeah.
Talk to them. I'd like to start thinking of places where maybe I can talk to a venue or some place where I can actually say, hey, once a month, I want to do a podcast here. So that way I can bring people in and we have a central meeting place.
Yeah.
Because I can't do that where I'm at right now. So, or maybe
Yeah.
I'll call you and see if I could do it here on
do it here.
occasion.
You can
But-
do it here. You can do it right here, literally.
Yeah, cool. That would be cool.
Literally, whenever you want. The door is wide open.
Oh, you are a saint.
That's
And
the whole
and
purpose of the
gentleman.
space, man. You know, you just want people. We're trying to just get people to do things, make art in whatever fucking way. I mean, you saw when you walked in all the spray paint. That was all.
Right.
That was all just a white wall. And we've been working with this band, and we've been trying to think of how to photograph them and like have something really fucking weird. And so we just
Right.
photographed them destroying that wall, and we had a couch, and they were all destroying it and spray
cool.
painting the walls and shit.
Is
So-
that produced yet? The video and all that?
No, it just
okay.
happened like 3 nights ago.
Oh, wow.
2 or 3 nights ago.
I don't smell the paint fumes, so.
Really? Oh my god, it was so fucked. I lost so many brain cells
Yeah.
that night. Holy shit. But yeah, this whole space is dedicated to just helping people curate something. So
Very cool.
yeah, you can always use this place
Cool.
for sure.
That'd be great for podcasting, or if we wanted to double team and talk to somebody together or whatever.
It's up to you, man. You could use all this stuff too. We got
Yeah.
mics and tripods and stuff.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm going to flip this podcast and ask you a couple things because I'm curious. So
Sure.
what bands, since, I'm always interested in, people always say like, how the hell did you find that band? And I go, I'm lucky, man. People send me all this stuff.
Yeah.
I just have to ferret through all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I have to, wade through like, this much shit to find a little diamond.
Of course, that's how it is.
But anyways, I got high boots, hip boots or whatever. So who are you listening to? Who is in any artist, not doesn't have to be one that
artist?
you're producing, just anybody.
Just current
Yeah,
artists.
just
It's hard for me because I flip between listening to a lot of current stuff and then listening to a lot of old stuff.
yeah.
And I flop. And right now I'm listening to a lot of old stuff. But there's a band called The Whiffs from Chicago.
The Whiffs.
The Whiffs, yeah, they're fucking great.
Wow.
I don't know them or anything. I just happen to stumble across their music, and it's one of those albums that's so easy to listen to. You're like, you get in a moment where, what do I want to listen to right now? I'll just put that album on, It always does it for me. It's one of those albums. Yeah, I love The Whiffs.
What kind of music?
It's straight power pop.
Okay.
Just garage rock, power pop, really straightforward stuff.
I bet you like this band, just going back to the 70s, my kind of epicenter is a band called 2020. Have you
I
heard
love
that?
2020. Of
Oh,
course.
okay.
I own all their
I
records.
used to go see them, dude.
Dude, they're one of my favorite bands. That album, Lookout.
Yeah.
And the one with Yellow Pills on it. And all
Oh,
that shit.
Yellow Pills is one of the best songs for a pop song that I've ever heard.
Yeah, man. That's like that's the kind of shit. That's like my guilty pleasure stuff. Is like 70s power pop music.
Oh man.
I love 2020. It's funny. You
See, I
mentioned
thought I'd be telling you somebody you hadn't heard of.
that. Oh, I love 2020, dude.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we saw them numerous times. But one, back then there was this Henry Anson Ford Theater or whatever, right off the freeway, off the 5 or 101. I don't know if it's still there, but it's an outdoor amphitheater. And so during the summer, you could see bands there for free.
badass.
And we saw 2020 there, and we also saw 2020 at the Whiskey in different places.
Nice.
But
Were they from LA? I thought, or were they from like Wisconsin or something? Right.
you know what? I used to kind of know their backstory, and everybody said they were from LA, but they weren't. They were from somewhere else.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But they were one of these transplants to LA, so then
sure.
everybody says they're an LA band, but which always cracks me up because usually everybody's from somewhere else that's in LA. anyways.
Yeah, it's true.
There's not a lot of Chili Peppers or whatever, but there's not a lot of bands that are just like.
Yeah, born and
X.
bred. Yeah.
But anyways, okay, 2020. So the Whiffs, because
Yeah, I
I'm
don't-
taking a mental note while this is being recorded, so I can go back. But
Yeah, I mean the Whiffs, like
I want to check
like
them
the
out.
Whiff, like WHIFFS.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean obviously I'm biased because a lot of the bands we're working with as Lollipop I listen to all the time.
Sure.
Like Beach Bums are great. Cheap Tissue, have you ever heard of them?
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
great. The Pesos. I mean we work with a lot of different bands right now, but I'm trying to think outside of my little Lollipop Bubble. The Whiffs, definitely.
I'm not looking at my phone I'm trying to look up something on American Pancake.
Oh yeah, no worries. That's a hard question to. Actually, I probably should. I can't look at my phone, but the Whiffs. What else modern? I actually really like Harry Styles' new album. It sounds kind of crazy, but it's really good.
No, it really doesn't, because that guy kind of surprised me, man.
His album rules.
Like,
I've listened to it.
I haven't listened to the album, but I am impressed with that guy, because he's from a boy band and all this stuff. But then all of a sudden, when he was doing his solo stuff, it fits within that kind of 70s glam chamber pop sound.
It does. Yeah, totally. Totally.
That I'm fond of. So I'm like, what the fuck this guy had in him,
I don't know, but he did something. That album's fucking great.
Oh, I'm gonna on your
the whole thing. There's a few songs that are like a little, too shiny.
Right.
But it's a really great album, I think. That one, the Whiffs. Oh man, there's this band called Diamond Hands that are really great. I've listened to. They have a new album out, and the guy in that band named Joel put some songs out that are really great. I've been listening to that a lot, actually. Got a friend named Johnny Cosmo. Put some stuff out. That's really cool. Oh, I don't know.
That's
but then I'll go listen to like weird, 60s music or 80s music, and it's flip flops for me.
Are you familiar with a LA band called Pretty?
No.
When you said 80s music, it made me think of it, because they sound like, they sound like Roxy Music or Duran Duran,
Cool.
that whole thing.
I love that stuff.
And they've been on like K-Rock and different things. I just wrote up about them, and I just mentioned it because they're LA band, so maybe I thought, but I think you'd like them.
Pretty. That's it.
Just Pretty.
Okay. It's a great band name.
If you go to their Facebook, it is a good band name, but on the other hand, you look pretty up and everything else shows up. But
you have to put Pretty Bands, Los Angeles.
Their Facebook is Pretty, either the band and then LA, or Pretty Band LA.
Got it.
And then that's how you could find them. I was trying to find this. I don't know if I could, because I can't remember the song. But again, when I was speaking earlier about American Pancake's the direction has been kind of not localized and actually not album based either, because I just haven't had time to do a lot of album reviews, although I'm going to be doing like the Brittany Howard album, from the Alabama Shake. She did.
Oh, cool.
She did this.
Yeah.
She did this really crazy album that you don't think would have come out of her from her blues rock kind of thing with Alabama Shakes, and she's super duper talented. But I just knew that you had a real affinity for like power pop stuff, and that's why I was wondering like what you were listening to.
I just opened up my Spotify because I forgot to have it on my computer.
Okay.
I'm just gonna read off the shit. Literally, recently played the Hollies.
Oh.
Joel Tyler Wall, which is the guy from Diamond Hands. Corners. Beach Bums.
I love Corners.
Oh, there's this band called The Little Girls.
The Little Girls.
They're fucking badass.
I remember that name, obviously. The Little Girls.
They're fucking badass, dude. Then they're from like 70s. Actually, I think it says. Oh, they're so good, man. 1982, sorry, and they're LA band. Classic power pop stuff. And Sonic Youth. That's on my recently played.
It's good.
So.
Good stuff. I'm making playlists too, but I need to make more of them on American Pancake. And playlists seem to be kind of, I hate to say it because I love listening to albums still, but everything's like song based now.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I don't know if you were into vinyl when you were like in high school, or you guys, what was the mode of what was the medium? Cassettes, CDs.
When I was a little kid, it was cassettes and the CDs, and then it morphed into. I mean, that's actually how it was until the iPod came out, which is when I was in high school. Then it was the iPod, but you still had to buy music in order to listen to it.
Right,
There's no
right,
streaming. Like you had to go on iTunes, and
Right.
the best fucking Christmas present was an iTunes gift card.
Right.
Like a $20 gift card. That's 2 albums. Holy shit! What am I gonna buy?
Yeah.
So, but that's for me. That was my generation. CDs, cassettes, morphing into the iPod.
And I hate CDs, man.
Me too.
Because like
the worst
albums, at
format.
least you had the cool album cover, which is artwork in itself that you liked.
Yeah, you can frame it.
And then just the whole aspect of taking the vinyl, even if there's a scratch or whatever on it, or you hear that to me was the end all. But
it still is the best. It's the best way to listen to
it
music.
is. I think
Hands
so.
down.
But the reason I asked that is, I heard I saw Henry Rollins is always really interesting to listen to.
Yeah.
The way he speaks and his enthusiasm for life and I'm actually
Vinyl records.
I'm actually trying to get him on the podcast, but
Nice.
But
Yeah, no, he has a huge record collection, right?
he does, but he was talking about on this little video that was on YouTube, and I shared the blogs. I can't remember what they are, but they have to do with vinyl. But he was talking about, how he listens to an album, how he's a solitary person anyway, so he listens by himself.
Yeah.
But he said there has been times that he has a listening partner, and he mentioned the guy's name. He said he's known him since he was 11 years old. And he says that's the only person that will sit, not talk through the album, but kind of, or if he's going to talk, he'd interject something interesting.
Yeah.
But he could sit. And it made me think of like when you were in high school or whatever, and I don't know when you started getting into music, but I remember when, I was getting into bands, like my buddy Mark, who I was in one of the first band outfits with, I was learning all my knowledge of like the glam period of like Bowie and stuff through him.
Yeah.
So he'd pull out his Diamond Dogs,
Yeah.
album, and it was just such a cool thing. Like we put it on, we listened together. But I don't listen together with anybody else since, it's just like you listen yourself. But
Because you don't have to own anything anymore.
That's true. But is your experience like,
Oh, it's totally similar.
like, do you listen to albums, or have you ever listened with other people, like a listening party or something, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
So that's an interesting point. I think when I was getting into like discovering music and bands and stuff, a lot of it was mixed CDs and mixed tapes, where someone would make a mixtape or mix CD and be like, "Dude, have you heard this shit? Have you heard this shit?
remember that,
Have you heard
yeah.
this shit?" For me, that was kind of. I remember I still have some of the mixed like tapes and CDs that my friends made me when I was young, and it would have random shit.
that was
And
good
you would
times.
have to write everything
Yeah.
on there, and he'd be like, "Which one is that? Oh, wow!" And that's how I discovered a lot of shit, was through my friends making, and I would make them for my friends, and we would have. There's times where we'd actually have. I remember we would have a day, like, all right, this Monday we're all gonna swap CDs, and we would like swap our mixed CDs or mixtapes. So for me, it was more like that type of
That
thing.
is hysterical.
But
because
sitting with someone and listening to music was more something I would do when I would get stoned with my friends. Definitely
Yeah.
that. We get really stoned and listen to something
and
like
listen to the whole album.
the Growlers or something back then. We're like, whoa, what is this
That-
shit?
That's perfect to get
You know?
stoned to, is the Growlers, basically.
Yeah. So it's like that was kind of was it for me, but mostly mixed stuff.
That brings back, I had the exact same experience with, with joy in my heart and in my penmanship, like writing, he's just going to blow him away, because I knew he hadn't heard it.
Yeah.
So I had friends too that we would do that, and I'd be so stoked, like, you got to check this out. And then invariably, like, sometimes he'd go, this sucks. And it kind
Yeah.
of,
But then sometimes you'd
burst
be
your
like,
bubble.
what the fuck? This is the coolest shit
Yeah.
I've ever heard.
But that was, you're exactly right. Like when you're swapping, making your own CDs and whatnot. And that was before people were doing it, Napster and all that bullshit. And
Yeah, but you had to, the thing is, you don't have to own music anymore. So a lot of it is you know, you listening to music by yourself. No one has anything to give you at this point. It's like, well, have you heard of this? Just go look on your phone.
Yeah,
You already have it. You just don't know you have it.
Back then, there was more of like a emotional thing. Like, I'm making a little gift for my buddy, you know, like
Yeah.
I'm going to get the gift back.
And like, I had to buy these songs
Right.
in order for you to listen to them.
And you had to buy the CD, and you had to
it's
take the
like-
time to basically curate music, just like
Yeah,
when I'm
making them-
curating music for a blog. You're taking your
Yeah.
time. And now
Especially
you're right.
mixtapes,
Everything's like
man.
easy.
Mixtapes take, half an hour to
Yeah.
sit there and, it's totally worth it. But now, I don't know. It's just Spotify. Just look it up, Google it. You'll find it.
But in
know?
some way, it's kind of come full circle because now it's still, in a sense, a mixtape because everybody's listening to songs.
Yeah, it's a public mixtape,
Right.
basically.
And so, I think that the long format, the album, and I'll send you some links when I get home. I couldn't find them there, but there's some recent albums that just knocked my socks off. And there's one guy, and this is always exciting for me. So I listened to his song, and I was gonna just go. I wasn't gonna listen to any more of it because I go, this is just not appealing to me. And all of a sudden, it was early in the morning. I was feeling kind of bummed out and had a low time. And then he said some things in his lyrics that just really kind of hit me like, oh shit,
Yeah.
And then the next song, and he had a really absurdist take on life. That life is kind of a cosmic joke. Like on that album, it's kind of like life is a cosmic joke and it's just going to fuck with you stuff.
Yeah.
And then there were some hopeful things in it. There's some humorous things in it. And not really in a style I normally would gravitate to, but the way the guy did it. And so I wrote up a nice piece on him, and I mentioned the album, and it almost turned into an album review, and the guy was like kind of blown away. And I hope he gets some traction out of it. But
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
yeah, but
That sounds cool.
But when it, something touches you, especially when you're at a low point, and, and I was like, it was actually after I came back here because I started rethinking, like, what the fuck did I
Yeah,
do?
of course.
Did I make a good decision?
Of course.
And, I don't have any money right now,
Yeah.
like I used to, and all that kind of stuff. But then all of a sudden I wrote the guy, and I go, man, you kind of saved my life this morning. I go, not literally, but
You helped
figuratively.
me out of a rut.
And I go, I wanted you to know that, and I think that's what this interview's kind of come full circle, but that's what, man, music can do that. Music is important,
Fuck yeah. There's no way that the world we live in would exist without it. There's no way.
No, it would
just wouldn't have it. Like if it didn't exist, we wouldn't exist. That's how I feel.
I totally agree with you, and I just hope people, there's enough leeway with people with the way the world's going, where they have time to make art. Now all of a sudden, with all the, Trump and all this fucking, I wrote an op-ed piece too, which I don't do a lot about the Soleimani assassination, but now that's going to instill a lot of probably good music too. People
True, yeah.
protest kind of music and
Yeah.
and
Which
things.
is like the best shit.
Yeah, and things like that. And believe me, most songs are still going to be about the girl that broke your heart and stuff.
Yeah,
But,
I mean,
but there's room for some other stuff. I saw on YouTube too. I was looking around. It just popped up because I follow you on so much social media that you released a full album on YouTube, but it was one of your older albums.
Yeah, it was just like a stream. I
got to put that on.
I bounced like the entire album as one streaming
Right.
thing, and I forgot I did that, so it's on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, I should probably do that in the future. I like piecing out like when it plays into the next song and all that. But that's the one I did. A lot of it was just on a little drum pad, like desktop thing. It just sits on your desk.
Well, this is a little bit different, but and my buddy who was actually a guitar player in my very first incarnation as a band, and then he quit because he goes, I can't do this. You guys are getting too good. I can't like keep up. I'd rather just like do sound engineering for you.
Yeah.
So then he became our sound engineer. He bought his equipment. He
Nice.
created a sound company. He was doing sound reinforcement for other bands.
Wow. That's smart.
And he still lives in La Mirada.
Oh,
and
cool.
But he had a Roland drum kit, electronic drum kit.
Yeah.
But it had the actual, the stretch heads on them.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So it had a really good feel to it.
Yeah. The bounce back and all
And
that.
I thought about getting one of those friggin' things because those
Dude,
things.
the new ones are insane.
Well, you could play. I could write music all times of the night and not disturb anybody.
Yeah. I mean, some of them now, they're so fucking close to feeling like a kit. The way that I don't know what material that is that they use.
It's like a stretch, like weird
Mesh.
polyester or mesh.
Or
Yeah,
something, I love
you
it.
can actually do like easier rolls than on a real kit.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because they bounce back a little bit. But I thought about that too, getting like a stripped down set, and that way I don't have to worry about mic leakage. Right?
Do it, man. I don't have one like that, but I have a dinky one that I love. I use from time to time.
Do you know Aaron Postian?
No.
He was kind of around the whole band thing and did some. I think he directed the Icy Creeps for the Lovely Bad Things.
Yeah.
He is the lighting guy for Garbage, and he has been for quite a while now.
Awesome.
So when Garbage played in Atlanta area, he got my wife and I and my daughter tickets, and we went and we hung out with him and everything. But I was talking to the other drum guy, and he was telling me about Garbage's drummer, how he plays a real kit, but everything's triggered.
Yeah.
So all the sounds are triggered sounds.
Yeah.
Because they want to keep a consistent sound throughout.
Of course. Yeah, you can get those.
And
acoustic
I
triggers.
thought that would be a cool thing for someone like you who's a real drummer, but you don't have to worry about miking, so you just get triggers for every part of your drum kit.
Yeah. I've done that actually.
Really?
Yeah. They work. It's an added, like, I did a few shows like that, but it was an added thing. You have to set up
you
the
need a
kit,
processor
then you have
and-
to set up the triggers, then you have to set up the sounds, then you have to make sure the sound guy's getting the sounds all right and that they're not, But if you have the time to do that, fuck yeah, shit's great.
Playing in bands, which I haven't done in forever, but you obviously have and done a lot of it. You got to be like, have stories about bad sound guys.
Oh, of
Because they're
everywhere.
But what I'm saying is like the majority of the time, unless you're going to a big venue, like the Fox Theater thing or something or whatever, the Palladium or whatever, but I'm talking about your normal small venue. I would say that 80% of the sound guys don't give a shit how you sound.
True.
And then there's people who are really conscientious, the other 20%, but it's horrible, man.
It is horrible. I used to have a motto where, at least with Mr. Elevator, that it shouldn't matter. Like, I used to do the sound guy excuse thing all the time. Like, it's the fucking sound guy, dude. We sound like shit because of him or her or whatever. It's like, dude, if you're really a great band, it does not matter.
Oh, sure it does though, because
In a small venue, I mean, in a big venue, it would for
Yeah.
sure. Like if you're at the observatory or you're in a big room, you need a legit sound person. But if you're at a little club, like 100 people club, I really honestly think
you're getting the stage sound anyway. So
like I think if you can bring the energy and like you're there and
Right.
you're bringing it your all, that's people are just going to feed off that, not necessarily not being able to hear vocals really well or.
that's why a lot of like guitarists and the sound guys going, no, turn your amp down. We're gonna go. They're like,
Yeah.
I want to be able to control my amp because
there's times where towards the end of, because I haven't played in a bit, but towards the end I would tell the guy, and if he started saying that, bitch, take the mic off my amp then. Like I'm not gonna, or I would unplug it myself and I'd turn the amp up because it's just,
you can trust they don't know the music.
if you're on stage, you're playing, when
Yeah.
things sound right. you know?
Right.
And that's going to reciprocate in the audience. If you're basically a few feet of
Yeah,
difference.
yeah.
So
That's my favorite kind of venue.
same. Same. I like hearing stage. I think my favorite is seeing a band that's really not mic'd up. Just maybe the kick drums mic'd up and
And the vocals, obviously.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's the best because you can hear what's coming out of their fucking instruments. You can hear the drums in the room. I love that shit. Like the smell. It's like it's awful sound in there, but it's one of my favorite places to watch bands play.
And you're in the fear of getting, actually killed by by electrocution.
Yeah, I know, right? And it's, or picking up a parasite or some shit. 'Cause
Yeah.
it smells so awful in there. But that's my favorite place to like watch bands play. And I know it sounds like shit in there, but that's when you really know a band's got. It's like, man, if you can sound good at the smell, it doesn't really matter anywhere you play.
Well, I remember God, what was that place? It used to be by the Glass House. There was a small little venue.
Aladdin
Yeah.
Juniors. Yeah, yeah.
So Aladdin Juniors, they had that little kind of funky stage.
Yeah.
But then a lot of bands, because they didn't want to hassle pulling their rigs, their gear down, they would just set up in front of the stage. So I remember this
Yeah, I
one
remember
particular show where Crystal Antlers were not on the they were just on the ground, and they were kind of almost in a semicircle facing each other.
Yeah.
And everybody was just piling where the drummer
I
could.
think I was at that show.
You probably were.
That shit blew my fucking mind.
It was awesome because there's actually people pushing next to me and almost running into bumping the elbow of the percussionist at the time, that crazy dude that would end up in his underwear.
Yeah.
And I wrote about that show, and I was taking don't think I took video. I think I was just taking photos, but that's that being in a show like that is incredible compared to a big venue.
I agree.
I mean, that I don't even a lot of times I just didn't have fun at festivals because you don't have that. You just have this huge, and I don't get stoned. So maybe if you got stoned and you're at a big festival and you get to kind of.
No, it's not the same.
Yeah.
Not the same. I guess people can have their opinions, but for me, I prefer intimate, being on the same level as the band, and just being in it.
It is awesome.
I love
Getting sweat off the,
I mean, that's how music.
Johnny Bell's going like that, and his sweat comes off his hair
course,
and hits you in the face. That's fine.
Yeah, that shit's great, man. There's not a lot of. I guess there's a decent amount of venues like that, but festivals have just blown the fuck up.
What was the place in Anaheim? The Warehouse?
The Men's Warehouse.
The Men's Warehouse.
Yeah. I love that spot.
Like the guy, if your suit doesn't fit, I'll give you.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of. Yeah, that place was awesome too. Not as good as I'm still saying that Aladdin's Juniors.
Yeah, that place
was
was really special. That really was. I think it's still there actually.
Really?
I don't think they do shows, but it's still there. And there's a restaurant, right?
Yeah.
Next to it or something.
Right.
Yeah, that place was great. I always say the smell. I don't know why, but it's just such a staple place for me. If the smell didn't exist, I don't know.
What is the current situation with the smell?
They're still there. They're still doing shows, but I think they have to move at some point. They just don't know when.
So they haven't moved it yet?
Mm-mm.
No, because that all occurred while I was over there.
Yeah, no, they're still there. Same location and
Wow.
everything. Yeah.
Does the alleyway still smell like piss? And
Don't know. I haven't been there in a long time. But I do know that they're still doing their thing. And that place is a special place in my heart.
it is a really one-of-a-kind venue for, I always thought that model, and it is duplicated in other places in other states to a certain degree, but not to the extent of people volunteering and
Yeah.
that's the model that should be replicated everywhere, because you get the young bands who can volunteer, help out, and then get a chance to play there and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, the shows at the Smell, apart from, I think the sound is not the best, but I think it's beside the point with the Smell.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's not part of it's the whole experience of and that stage is too friggin' high. But
yeah.
besides that,
Yeah, that's true. It's a super high stage.
and I used to go out the back way and then just do some interviews with bands and stuff right outside there on that other highway. So that was perfect. So
Yeah, it's
that
a cool
was
place.
just cool.
I really hope. I don't know. Every city needs to have somewhere youngsters can go and be weird
Right.
and experiment with
So
shit.
now that Lollipop it's moved to this location, it's not in Echo Park anymore, right?
No.
So, and I remember when you had the Lollapalooza,
Yeah.
and you had shared with me that they were trying to see your ass and stuff for that name and all this bullshit, but even though it was Lollipalooza, but
Yeah.
the last one I went to, like the Lollapalooza, the place was so packed I couldn't get in there. Like it was like, I mean, it was just crazy. I don't know who was playing there that time I was in there, but I got to see a lot of bands at the last one and shoot a lot of stuff. But it was insane. And so now that you're here and you're in a different location geographically, are there any? Because this isn't East LA, is it?
Yeah, it's East LA. Technically, I mean,
So
technically it's Boyle Heights, but if you go 4 blocks this way, it's East LA.
So would you
East
say
LA.
is there any kind of music venues of any import that are in this general vicinity, or is it pretty
Yeah.
much you still have to go the
No,
same?
no. Unfortunately, artists are going to be going to the places that are less expensive because it's easier to
Right.
live. Hence why we had to move. So there's a lot of places popping up. There's a place called House of Machines that's just right down the street
Oh, cool.
from here. And they're great. And there's another venue, I forget the name of it, that's about to be opening up in this neighborhood too.
And what kind of music does like that venue you just
All
mentioned?
kinds, but what's House of Machines is interesting because it's a bar, but they serve food. So it's technically all ages, I think, or it's 18 plus or something like that. And they have 2 stages. They have one big one in the back, and then they have like a smaller one in the front. And it's great. It's a fucking awesome place. Big windows looking out, into the city, good sound.
Whoa, I'm gonna check that place out.
Really nice people that run it. They take care of the bands. Yeah, it's maybe 2-minute drive from here, just that way.
Whoa,
It's awesome.
I'm gonna check that out.
If you know that there's a pizza place called Pizzanista, that's really popular, like around here.
No.
It's right across the street from it. But yeah, the place is great. So there's stuff popping up over here.
That sounds really cool because I knew there would be new places that I haven't seen that I need to familiarize myself with, and finding a place that's divergent and that has just all kinds of bands is that's what that sounds like. And that
Yeah,
sounds,
House of Machines, man. I'm a huge supporter of that place. I love that spot. It's probably my favorite place to see music in LA right now,
wow,
personally.
that is very cool.
The smell too. I just haven't gone in a while, but I fucking love the smell.
You're not that far.
No, not that far at all. But House. I only say House of Machines because it's fairly new to me, at least. I've just been going there recently. But
And you know what's crazy about that is, and I know and remember with fondness probably like Trash Pretty.
yeah, to me that was like, my favorite.
It's just
time
fun.
of my life.
Yeah. And so it's always floored me that there aren't any more, because there's tons of thrift stores and quote unquote vintage stores in Echo Park and places that could push the racks aside and do stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a matter of, permitting and all
Yeah,
that kind
a
of
lot of
stuff
it
in the
is, for
city,
sure.
like, city pissed off because there's no parking and whatever.
Yeah.
But there's places that could be doing stuff like that. That seemed like they used to do it more often. What was that? God, I thought there was another place in the Laguna Beach area that was also doing that. That wasn't Trash Pretty. It was yeah. It was like a ice cream store or something like that.
Yeah.
I remember.
Wow. Yeah, I do remember that. It was like a penguin or something, blue penguin.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That place was really interesting that
Yeah,
they
that
would
was.
allow that.
Yeah,
And
it's really small in there.
it was tiny. But I think if places were willing to do that, and they do it obviously at Burger Records because that makes sense,
Yeah.
and they have parking and all that stuff. But a lot of those stores where other stores are closed or they're more industrial areas, you can do stuff like that because neighbors aren't going to complain,
For sure.
obviously.
For sure.
But I would think that in this area and with the economy being the way it is, that there'd be places that would start doing that, like,
There are. But also, with the economy, you don't want to get fucked by the city.
and then all of a sudden lose your
Yeah.
main.
So it's a
Guess
weird.
what? We can't make any money
I know,
now.
So it's like a sketchy, thin line.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to that place, Coconuts?
Yes.
That was really interesting. Do you know what happened to that spot?
No.
Well, the
But
whole thing was.
I love stories. So.
The thing is, it was a bar. It was 21 plus. But they would make the shows 18 plus till curfew, wherever the city they were in. So it was probably like midnight or 11 or something. But at least for me, I was going there before I was 21, and they never carded anyone. So, and everyone knew that. And I think it was part of why they did well, because they were just selling a lot of drinks. And then they had bands playing there, and it was like the coolest place to go as a 19, 20-year-old, because you can go get some beers, play a show, hang out. They had like some pool tables. And that place was so great. And then they got shut down because they found out they were serving alcohol to underage kids. But I always look back and like, wow, that place existed. Crazy. Crazy. That was probably the coolest place, in my opinion, down there. There's definitely nothing like that anymore.
And I mentioned Madame Wong's before. That's what they did. I mean, it was a Chinese restaurant, and they decided, hey, we're going to have. I don't know how she ended up having punk bands because it's this older Asian woman, but and there was a place that we played in Santa Ana called the Renaissance Cafe, and then the place in Anaheim, Chain Reaction, which I think is still there. Yeah. That's the only place that survived, that.
Yeah.
And that was actually a club. Yeah, we played that place. Had some issues with the owners at the time. But anyways, but my whole point is like there's less venues, and I guess there's never going to be enough venues, but it's I'm glad you that sounds like a bright spot that I need to check out, that machine
House of Machines.
House of Machines.
Yeah. It's a really good spot. Really cool. I recommend
in Silver Lake, there's a bicycle shop that was doing that, and I saw some really good bands there, including, I'm not, Wide Streets, which is another one of those bands that were phenomenal, and they only put out like 2 albums.
Huh.
And then they went by the wayside. But I dig those kind of places where you can just sit there, hang out, in between either, racks of clothes or bicycle parts or whatever.
Yeah.
And just like,
watch a band play.
Yeah, it's such a different, cool vibe,
Yeah.
Have you ever thought, or would it be too much of a, have you ever thought of using this space for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about it, but we're also like, the whole city permitting.
I would be worried, especially if you have a good deal being here, and
We do, and it's, I don't know, man. We're talking about it though. We've been thinking about doing like private shows, maybe.
that's what I was gonna say, like a secret loft show or something. Not secret, but not open to the public.
You had to have some sort of invitation or
Just
word of mouth.
Make
thing.
it like a private party. Especially you could do that with bands that Lollipop are producing.
We've been talking about doing that specifically, and that seems more like plausible. But I think public shows scares me. Maybe because I'm older now, but that shit scares me.
It should scare you because, again, you have something here that you have to kind of protect, and But I think doing a small type of one where maybe a few bands only play like 20-minute set, half-hour set. Invite some people, maybe bloggers, stuff like that. Like American Pancake bloggers. No, I'm just kidding. But
no, for sure.
but
you're always invited. Anyone that anyone here knows,
yeah,
is always invited, and it would be just like a word of mouth thing.
Yeah,
that's all it would be. There would be no flyer or like anything like that.
Right.
Be word of mouth. Maybe like
every time it happens though, there's one asshole who
I know that just
makes
blows
it public
for everybody. I know.
Yep.
Fuck.
That's the only bad thing.
I know.
You've been to shows like that before, house parties where what the hell? Who's that dude?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that I could see that because you got a lot of room here, and
Yeah.
and with your, fortress outside,
I know, right?
you could just open that little and
I
let
know.
people in or whatever.
Seriously.
What you could do, this is what you could do, man. You could have like where they have to come in only by Lyft or something, or by Uber,
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's no like parking
There you go.
situation. The city can't go like, and then all the people could just kind of Uber in, drop
Yeah.
off.
I feel like that's how people would go anyways, even if it wasn't
You'd probably have
right.
to.
I feel like if I go to shows, especially people, you're going to drink, just fucking Lyft, Uber. So easy.
I know so many people. You were talking about we were talking earlier about the implosion of bands or whatever, and stuff. And to me, the demarcation line in the sand is 10 years.
Of being a band?
Yeah,
Okay.
it seems like after 10 years, that's the greatest risk of a band imploding.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Maybe
Decade.
8 to 10 years, maybe.
A decade, yeah.
Yeah, and if you get past that, then you're probably okay. But I think that's
That's
it's a long time.
I would say shorter than that. I'd even say 5 or 6.
Yeah, I could see
maybe.
that too.
But 10, definitely. If you reach 10, you're okay. You're like, if you've gone that far, and just it'll be fine.
Well, a lot of the bands that all of a sudden are like overnight sensations or whatever, they've all been together for 10 years.
Yeah, that's
that.
true. Yeah, I guess 10 years that's pretty logical. I mean, that means you've gone, you've been through some shit.
So, you moved here when?
About a year ago.
No way, that long.
Yeah, maybe close to a year ago. Maybe
So
10
your
months.
exile to Arizona wasn't that long.
No, I was out there for a year and a half,
Oh my God, man, Wyatt.
and I moved back.
That's a crack up in a way, because I remember you were speaking in glowing terms of being there at first.
I do miss it.
Yeah.
And it was great. Yeah, it was great. It's just the wrong time for me. I think I pulled the trigger. I think I was getting really restless here. I'm also, born and raised in this area, so
Right.
I've never lived anywhere else, and I'm just like fucking anxious and restless, and I was sick of being broke. I mean, everywhere else in the country is pretty affordable, so I was like, "Fuck it, I gotta get out of here." So I got out, and it was great. It was really fun, and it was amazing. Probably the most eye-opening experience for me, just living in a rural Arizona town and meeting people out there. And I had a house because I could afford it. It was quiet and it was dark at night, and you could hear the wind rustling through the trees in the morning. It was really fucking amazing. But it was just the wrong time. There's too much happening. I thought I could do it out there and run Lollipop, but it just wasn't the case.
Yeah, that seems hard, especially somebody who has their, you have your pulse on everything. You're kind of the guy out here, so
Yeah, it was
I don't
rough.
I
It was
don't
rough.
see
I
you
felt
delegate. I
disconnected.
don't see you delegating to other people to take care of stuff, and
Yeah,
not worrying about it.
You're right.
Yeah. So.
It was tricky being out there. So I'm glad I'm back, and I have a different appreciation for LA now. Definitely.
Did the solitude, from a songwriting perspective, garner any results or a different type of?
I moved out there and I put out 2 full-length albums in 1 year.
Oh wow.
And a single. I pumped out like 26 or 27 songs.
You were prolific.
Yeah, I mean, for me that was. But there's a balance for me, like in terms of songwriting and recording. Fuck yeah, I flourish in silence and nature and being in a different environment. For me, it's like totally where my creativity is on steroids. But then, on like an internal level, just being like a human being, I'm not as, I isolate I'll end up, I'm like you, man. I'll go big. Like if I'm going to go isolate myself and live in the woods and make albums, that's what I'm going to fucking do. And that's all I did that year. And I became depressed because I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't have any friends. I ended up, just being inside all the time and tweaking on my songs and music, and it was dark. Different. It was, it was totally different.
Just
So
changes your psyche up
It does, man. My social, like my actual mental well being was at risk. My creative self was flourishing, but the other side of it was like irking for something more. So there's definitely a balance, and I think here it seems to be like that side of it seems to be very fulfilled. There's people all the time around and noise, and but artistically it's a little tougher for me to be able to sit and like get a song done. You know, there's so much shit happening all the time. But you know, I don't know. To me, my mental well being is more important than my creative well being at this point.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you think relocating or changing in a big way is going to make oneself happier or change, you know, your outlook, and then you just figure out it's not really about that. You know, a lot of it is like your human connections and
Fuck yeah.
and you know, there's been studies, you know, a lot of studies done that basically say that the more human connections you have, and I'm talking about even just saying hi to the nice lady at the grocery store, you know, the checkout lady.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be deep connections, but the more
Say, "Hey,
human
thank
connections you have, that you're just communicating with, the healthier you are.
Absolutely.
And so there may be a few people who are so much the lone wolf that they can kind of be by themselves, but people weren't, the human animal is not built like that,
No.
you know?
No, we're not.
And so I had a similar situation where, you know, I was in an environment where everybody basically referred to me as a crazy Californian, you know, because my politics, my this,
Of course,
my that.
yeah.
And I was also, everywhere you go out there, at least the area I was at is all country music.
For sure.
I don't have anything against any kind of music per se, but
that's you know.
and I'm talking, you know, the state of country music. If you think the state of pop music's in the toilet now, you could argue that one way or the other, but the state of country music's really in the toilet. It's all bro, it's all bro country and stupid.
Yeah.
If you want to
Yeah.
hear the stupidest music you've ever heard, listen to the current state of country music.
Yeah,
But anyways,
yeah.
and I love old country. I love, you know, Western.
Merle Haggard,
Oh,
all that old shit. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, that shit's great.
But so there was that, but there was, yeah, not that connection. And so, and again, the home we were renting in Georgia was like $1,200, beautiful big home with land around it and whatnot. And you could buy a home like that for about $180,000. And over
Man,
here,
it's-
it'd be like $1 million.
Of course.
And so
course.
that's the main thing that really bothers me about California. And I hope that California industries and different governmental institutions can kind of figure out how to make affordable housing for people. That's a whole different thing for California. But other than that, you know, California, there's a reason people want to be in California.
Oh fuck yeah.
It's just some sort of like weird progressive energy here.
I think it's just the weather. I think about
so?
the same thing. Maybe it's like a magnetic thing, or it's the ocean, or what. I'm like, I think it's literally just that the weather is fucking nice all the time.
Yeah.
You know,
What
Why
part
not
of
be here?
Arizona were you in?
I was in Flagstaff, so I was way north.
Okay.
It was fucked, man. Those winters were fucked.
So you got snow sometimes.
All for like 4 months straight.
Wow.
So much, couldn't even open my front door, and the city had to
Whoa.
like, yeah. I mean, it was,
So that's different.
for me, yeah, it was totally shocking. I thought I would have liked it. I fucking hated it. Maybe I'm spoiled because I grew up here, but it's like, man, I'm never living.
Well, you're a Dana Point boy, so I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
I'm spoiled. I'm spoiled for sure.
I mean,
But I was like, man, I can't. This shit's fucked. Like, I need to be. I could probably live in the desert and be pretty happy. I'm a sun guy.
well,
I like
I
warmth.
think there might be something to, you know, being near the ocean.
Yeah.
Even in LA, you're not far from the ocean.
No, really close.
But being, you know, obviously Georgia, it has a coastline too. But
Yeah.
where we were was completely kind of landlocked, and I'm somebody who, you know, I don't surf anymore, but I was like a major surfer in all through high school and past high school. I was surfing before class, you know, and that was a big part of the culture. And something about California, and to a certain degree, you feel it in New York too, the diversity just spawns like people able to get along a little bit better. Where
Yeah.
Georgia, like you go to Atlanta, it is diverse, and you go to all parts of Georgia, a lot more cosmopolitan than you would think, because there are a lot of people transplants from the East Coast.
Yeah.
But man, there's fucking scary parts of Georgia.
I'm
Where
sure.
we drove through that with just way too many Confederate flags hanging to make me feel
Yeah.
comfortable at all.
Yeah. I can
And
imagine, man.
and so that was different. You wouldn't have that in Arizona, but in Arizona,
But even
is,
in Arizona, there was a lot of that.
Really?
More than you'd think. Yeah.
yeah,
More than you think. It's pretty. It's one of those gray states, but it's
Right.
definitely more conservative and old fashioned than.
well, especially
think?
Flagstaff too, because it's a little bit. I wouldn't say upper scale, but it's more than like say
It's
like
rural. It's more rural town
okay,
up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a lot of like horse ranches and, yeah. So I can describe it's like a rural town. There's a little downtown, it's a few blocks, and the rest is just forest. You know.
Nevada, that was a location we thought about too, but it would negate the purpose of coming to California to be with my family and my kids and stuff.
Yeah.
But Nevada, just saying that makes me think of Thomas Marolda.
Yeah.
And I released a silly song called Seven Sign recently, and he actually hit me as soon as I released it and goes, "Hey man, that's a cool acoustic."
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That dude's.
that's a cool acoustic guitar sound on that. And I said, it means a lot coming from you, but I said, I'm a real hack when it comes to recording and engineering and everything. And he's a gentleman, so I know he probably thinks I'm a hack too, but he said, no, your stuff sounds great. But it just made me think, because, we had spoken last time, and it was a small world that I had just done an interview with Thomas Marolda, and do you still have that record? And
Yeah,
all, yeah,
fuck yeah. Dude, the Toms are like top 10 bands for me of all time.
yeah. He just
love
hit me
all
up
their records.
not long ago, and I need to. He still, offered me the invitation to come see a studio, and I never have done that, so I need to get out there now that I'm close.
Yeah, you're really close now. It's like 4
He's in
hour drive?
yeah, he's
3,
in
4?
he's in Somerville,
Cool.
so it's a little bit further, I think, but it's still close enough to make that happen.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that guy's kind of a genius in my opinion.
yeah, he's very successful. He made a lot of his money in music soundtracks, like in the
Yeah.
80s and whatnot, and he was very much like you. So he started off in I think at the time he was in Brooklyn, and the only reason he got into that business was somebody said, "Hey, I know a guy who does all that kind of stuff," and he was doing it all himself, but he was cutting tape,
Yeah.
right?
Way old school.
Yeah. So, and ping ponging,
Yeah.
which I have some familiarity with
Yeah.
old Porta studios and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But and you probably you're kind of a funny guy, because even though you're so much younger, you know a lot of the older, you seem to be in touch with a lot of not only older music but also older forms of recording, or at least know about it, and
Yeah, I mean, it's
analog
just-
stuff and all that. And
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of my first records I did purposely on tape and purposely ping ponged
oh yeah,
and purposely did it the old fashioned way because I like the way it sounds.
yeah.
It sounded more real to me. I've been thinking about going back and doing more recordings like that.
It's definitely like, because it's kind of hit or miss. You definitely
Yeah,
have some happy accidents. Like some sound
Yeah.
happens and you go, how the hell did that occur?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of exciting about doing all that kind
Absolutely,
of stuff.
man. I love that shit. I've been thinking a lot about getting a little old Porta studio or something like that.
Old Tascam or something.
Yeah, I did my very first album on that, and it was really fun. And then I just went straight to the computer from there.
Yeah. Less to haul around.
Yeah, right. Easier. It's just I'm lazy.
You had a pretty big board or something what you were using when I saw you up there with Karen the Lesbians. I remember of like,
Yeah,
you had some pretty big.
It was cheap little like Yamaha board. It was the MC 2404. That's what it was called. I love that thing.
The good thing about that old stuff though, White, is you could pick it up cheap, but
Yeah,
then you
that
can
whole
still
board,
do.
that board was like $100 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
but you can do interesting things with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have all the bells and whistles, and
No, but it's got some sound characteristics that you just can't get
Right.
plugging into a computer.
The problem I have is when I tried to do my projects, I liked how it sounded when the DAWs program was playing it in playback. When it rendered it, some things got lost in my ears. And that's the hardest part for me, the mastering,
Interesting.
And so I even thought, this sounds crazy, but I even thought the next project I do, because I'm planning on doing an EP soon, because I have like 35 songs
Dang.
written.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And I'm going to try to pick the ones that, there's a lot of shit in there. But I thought of actually mixing to the way I like the sound, get some high quality speakers and recording that. Does that sound weird? Like actually making a box and recording in stereo, in a stereo mic, just out of speakers. Because when I render, it seems like the data, something happens to it.
Yeah, it could be. You could do that. It might sound pretty cool. But
it'd be an
I
interesting
also
experiment.
think the rendering, maybe it's going to sound nerdy, but could be a bit rate thing.
Maybe.
Could be a buffer size thing.
Because even for a simple song, man, I use a boatload of tracks. I'll use like 25 tracks
Yeah,
or
you
something.
might want to. I'm guessing it's your buffer size. It used to happen to me, and then when I record in a really low buffer size, and then when I mix, I put it at its highest buffer size. And that seemed to do the trick for me.
I might have to get your expertise.
What software do you use?
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say Reaper.
No, Reaper's great, man. And there's a setup window in Reaper you just go to, and it'll say there's usually a button you can click that says buffer size, and you can flip between like 100 to 2,000 or whatever. So I would mess with going all the way to 2,000
Really?
before you bounce a song when you're adding a bunch of like plugins and stuff. Probably is the trick, because a lot of times it's defaulted really low, so you can record really easily. You can't really record when the buffer size is really high.
I would assume you're super organized.
No,
you're
really.
not.
No,
because like the 2 albums, like if I was going to try to do that and take the mixed and try that, some of them I probably don't have anymore. I'm so poorly organized.
I'm the same way.
I
would try that though. Actually, it might sound really, especially if you like recorded it onto like a tape deck or something. It could sound really cool.
Yeah, I thought, I go, if I like it in my loud in my monitor speakers. I go, why don't I just record that? And my buddy's like, you're stupid. That's a stupid way to do it. And I go, why not if it works? Like
try it
I'm
out,
all
man.
about the end result.
Yeah.
So I don't care if something's done. Some of the coolest songs that people send me, they're recorded so poorly, but there's something about them.
Yeah, there's just like
some
charming,
essence.
Yeah. I would say fucking try it.
Yeah.
You never know. Maybe you start a whole different style of fucking recording. Who knows?
Hey, I'm up for anything, man. I'll be picking at your brain and stuff. And if you ever, when you do the main recording, is that the studio right there?
No, I'll have to show you. I'll show you. It's
Yeah,
next
I'd love
door
to
that.
see it. And if you're recording anybody and the band's cool with it, I'd love to just kind of watch you do your stuff sometime.
Yeah, man. I actually have I think it's Thursday or Friday. I have a session coming up if you want to come hang out. I think
Cool.
it's Thursday, Friday, something like that. But thanks for being on the podcast, man.
Hey,
thanks so much for coming.
I totally appreciate it. And I hope I didn't babble too much or too long.
No, man. This is great. It's really nice talking to you. Come back more. We should do 2 more episodes.
Yeah, and if I do get that person I was talking about, maybe I could figure on coming here.
Yeah, just
I'm trying to get somebody that I'll tell you off the air, too. But I've been dealing with their publicist for about 3 years,
Holy shit.
and it's a big band, but it's just hard to get in.
Paul McCartney or?
No. It's kind of like my Paul McCartney. Although
Okay. Interesting.
have you ever get to see that dude live, Paul McCartney?
I saw him from a fucking. He played at Dodger Stadium, and I went up to like Elysian Park. There's like a hill where you can kind of see in.
You saw him
And I saw
illegally, man.
I saw him up on a hill, and he was playing, and we were facing the jumbotron. It was his giant face. That was as close as I ever got.
Yeah, my daughter that my aforementioned daughter got to see him, and I was like, "You saw Paul McCartney?" And it seemed like an odd choice in a way, but it was not an odd choice because who would not see Paul McCartney?
He's
But
a god.
yeah. Hey man, I appreciate it. I don't want to start babbling
Oh
again.
man,
and
no worries.
break
Thanks,
your,
thanks for coming by.
Hey,
Seriously,
awesome,
it's a pleasure, man.